What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikiPikaPapa, and one of the favorite projects that I have that we do on this channel every single month is I warehouse the top 20 singles cards and their price point for every single set that has a booster box, and I do it for Scarlet and Violet, I do it for Sword and Shield, I do it for Sun and Moon, and I do it for XY, and we regularly do updates. Like, the idea and the point of this channel is I want everybody to be able to keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on in the hobby at a macro level. So, for example, every month we look at Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon, and every other month we look at XY and we look at Scarlet and Violet, simply because there's just not as much movement going on there. However, we have been seeing a lot of movement in the XY space, a lot of positive movement. The aggregate total of those top 20 singles cards from all those sets that have booster boxes have been going up steadily over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, and it's been really exciting to keep our finger on the pulse of that. Now, a lot of that has been driven by what we're going to talk about in this video today, okay? And this is a great lesson for me and hopefully for everybody else out there. I know a lot of us already know this, but typically what happens in the game, the video game, is what ends up coming into the card space, right? So we see all these masks that are coming out now, like Twilight Masquerade, all of that is directly correlated to what's going on in the video game itself. So in February of this year, they announced a new Pokemon game, or a new DLC, or whatever it ends up being, right? Which is Pokemon Legends Z to A. And one of the things that they announced, there is going to be the return of Mega Evolutions. Now, as somebody who does not play the game like me, that doesn't mean a lot. But somebody who enjoys collecting and investing in the card side of things, that does mean a lot, because I have a feeling that in 2025, we're going to see the return of Mega Evolutions here into the Pokemon card space. Well, guess what? The last time we saw that was the XY era, and that is why all of these cards have been going absolutely insane in price. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at a lot of the cards that have already gone up. I mean, these cards have spiked significantly. I still don't think that they've reached their apex, right? Like, if Megas end up coming back into the card space, and if they end up being absolutely fantastic and fire and everybody wants them and they start being the big chase cards, well then guess what? I still think these cards, even though they've already gone up, still have a bright future ahead of them. But in our next video, we're going to look at some mega cards that have yet to pop, and I'm telling you right now, there's some really cool sleepers on that list. But before we get to the ones that will pop, let's talk about the ones that already have, and we're going to dig into that in just a second. But first, I always got to give my selfless plug here. So listen, if you enjoy this type of content, if you love this type of data-driven approach, hit that subscribe button. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, if you like what you see, give us a big old thumbs up. So with that out of the way, let's start looking at some of these cards that have been going crazy. Now, we're going to start off with this Mega Rayquaza evolution right here from Roaring Skies. If you've been following this channel at all, you know I am a huge fan of the Roaring Skies set. I think from a booster box price perspective, and I think from a singles cards perspective, it has been flying under the radar. However, as of late, you have seen a lot of action in the Roaring Skies space. A lot of the singles are starting to take off. The booster boxes are starting to sell with more velocity. It is just really interesting to see the excitement around there. Now, this is a card which maybe gained a little bit of steam back in February when the announcement was made, but we've really seen what was either a buyout or just a whole lot of interest over the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. And this card, I think, has a huge opportunity in the future. Now, I don't know if this is a card which has much upside. Some of these cards I think do. Some of these cards might be at a ceiling. It's already at $140, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Roaring Skies. When you think about Roaring Skies from a booster box perspective, you know, the cost of a Roaring Skies booster box is cheaper than a whole lot of the Sun and Moon booster boxes. So who knows? Could the whole XY era be overlooked a little bit and be undervalued? I certainly think some of them are, and Roaring Skies is one of those sets that checks that box for me. So next one right here, this Charizard EX from Flashfire. Now remember, there are 2 of these blue Charizards, right? There's this one and then the secret one. The secret one is like $400 for the card. However, this one is at $95 right now, and it got all the way up to about $98, almost to $100, and it's actually been coming down a little bit, but you can see that since February, when that announcement came out, this thing jumped way up. I'm talking from $82 all the way up to almost $100, and it's starting to come down a little bit. This is one of those cards where, even though it is spiked a bit, and I always say buy what will go up, not what has gone up, I do think that if we see some epic type of Charizard, Mega Evolution card later on in the Scarlet and Violet era, I think this is one of the cards that could see some upside to it. So I thought this was a really cool one to call out, especially since it's already starting to drop down a little bit in price. If this continues that downward trend and it starts to get back into the $80 range, might be a really cool pickup. But this card has absolutely caught fire ever since February. Next one right here, coming from XY Evolutions. XY Evolutions is a pretty sweet set. net, right? Booster boxes are going for like $800 and something. I love the ETBs, and this Blastoise has done the exact same thing as that M Charizard that we just looked at, but guess what? It does not seem to be dropping at all. Ever since February, this card took off, and this is another one. This is a $25 card right now, and when you're talking about a card of this age from a set that's as awesome as XY Evolutions, I know XY Evolutions was not in short print by any demand. Like, there was tons and tons of XY Evolutions out there, but again, when you think about the age of this card, you think about, you know, how people value that XY Evolutions booster box, right? And then you think about there could be some of these coming into Scarlet and Violet era, and you can pick up this awesome artwork for $25. I think you could do a lot worse for $25, even though this one is already spiked. So I was really pumped to add this Blastoise card on here because I just think it's awesome all the way around. Now, you could not include the Blastoise if you didn't talk about the Venusaur, the other big one from the XY Evolutions line that has absolutely taken off like a scalded rabbit since February. This one is another one. It is still sub 20 bucks. You can pick this up for $18 right now, and I think it is just an incredible piece of artwork, again, from an amazing set, which does have some opportunity if these M cards start to come back in Scarlet and Violet and get really hot. So thought this was a cool one to add as well. The next one is the Gyarados. I love seeing when some of these other cards, you know, we talk about, hey, these are the big characters because they're always on PSA's top 12 graded Pokemon and all this stuff, but Gyarados is never on that list, but Gyarados still has a lot of love out there, like an absolute awesome Pokemon. This one here is from Breakpoint. And you'll see again, ever since, really, this one started in November, not even February. This one started to gain some steam all the way back in November. Again, this one is a $33 card. Not a huge card by any means, but when you think about the age behind it, when you think about the awesome artwork, when you think about the opportunity it has in the future, 33 bucks for a card like this certainly is not selling the farm to buy it. So I thought this was a really cool call out to get past some of those bigger names that we've talked about earlier on. Next one right here, the Kickin' Chicken, the Blaziken right here. I absolutely love this card. I do think that for whatever reason, because of the love that we've seen from that Blaziken alt art in the Sword and Shield space, this card has taken off as well. I mean, this has been on fire really for the last year. This didn't need an announcement in February to get hot. This one has just been going up. Again, this is a promo card, right? This isn't something that you get from any of the booster boxes. This is a promo card, and it's been performing really well. It is still sub $25, coming in at a $23 price point. When I'm thinking about XY as a whole, who knows? Maybe the whole XY era is going to see a lift if we start to see these megas reinvigorated into the Scarlet and Violet era. It's going to be very interesting to watch, but I had to call this out, and I had to include this one in here because Blaziken has just been crushing it for the last year, yet it's still under $25, so a really interesting promo card to add to the list. And this one right here, this is the final one. This Lucario right here from Furious Fist. This is the gold secret version, and you know, this was a little bit of a flyer. I wasn't sure if I wanted to put it on there or not, but the price is right. You know, this is the chase card from Furious Fist. It's below $30. I think the artwork is really, really cool. It's a mega card, so we'll see what comes out in the future. Out of all of the cards on the list, this is the one where I'm kind of like, I'm not sure if it's got much more upside to it or not, but I love the artwork. I think the story behind it is really cool. I had to include it on the list, and since it's the final one, you know, I usually end a video with a bit of a flyer, one I'm on the fence with. So this was the one that I decided to pick out. So listen, as I said, these are the cards that have gone up, and rarely do I say this, but just because they have gone up, I'm not 100% sure that we've seen the ceiling yet, and I'm not 100% sure if these cards still don't have the opportunity to have some big growth in it. But with that being said, in our next video, we're going to talk about cards that have yet to go up that I think have the opportunity to go up. So as I always say, buy what will go up, not what has gone up. So this is a ton of fun doing this research. I can't wait to shoot the next video and share all of that with you. And if you're pumped about seeing that as well, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. And if you have questions or comments, drop them down below. I appreciate you more than I can say. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an epic one. Talk to you soon, everybody. Bye.